Welcome to Integrity Inspire, your daily dose of inspiration and motivation, featuring the bright and talented members of the Integrity Marketing Group family. Now, here's your host, Integrity co-founder and CEO, Bryan W. Adams.
Thank you again for joining us today for today's podcast. I'm very excited to just continue on this journey that we have been on. This podcast continues to evolve and to grow, and I'm grateful for everyone who has participated so far. And it's so very exciting to hear all of the great things that our partners are doing out there, and some of the best practices and best ideas, and even demystifying some of the business to where people are understanding it's not that complicated, whether it's selling over the phone or just building relationships in general. This podcast has brought us together in a format that I don't think we would have ever been able to do on our own. And so I am incredibly excited to see that. You know, it may sound trite that change is really a big part of life. But we should always be paying attention to the way that things change and change for the better. I know for me, just the change of slowing down the pace almost to a screeching halt has created an opportunity for space in my personal life that I wouldn't have had otherwise, and including these type of calls. And so I am incredibly excited and thrilled to spend time with many of our leaders. And one of the most exciting calls that we've put together is this one. I am incredibly excited to welcome Ryan Kimble of Agent Pipeline to today's podcast. As you know, Agent Pipeline became part of the Integrity family a few short months ago. It has been since that time, they have had a profound impact on our business. What Ryan and Laura and Larry Kimble have built there, along with all of their team, they have one of the most impressive leadership teams and overall group of employees that I've ever seen. What they have built in such a short time has just been nothing short of just impressive. They have become one of the largest insurance marketing organizations in the country, and I knew that bringing on Agent Pipeline would have a big impact on the Integrity platform, but frankly, I think this exceeded all of our expectations. One of the best parts of having Ryan and Laura and their incredible team on board with us is that shared spirit of innovation. They're always thinking of new ways to continue to grow and to continue to keep pace and continue to win. And with that background, I just want to give a very warm welcome to Ryan Kimble from Agent Pipeline. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for joining Integrity. I could not tell you how proud I am to call you a partner, my friend.
No, brother, I appreciate the warm introduction. I obviously love being here, and if I could go back and record what you said, I'd play it to our team every day, because you make people feel more than what they really are. So I appreciate that. We have a great team back at the office. Well, I guess back at their houses now, and we've truly been blessed over the years to be in the right spot, to, I guess, make good decisions, and and at the end of the day, try to work as hard as you can to make things happen. So we've been very fortunate, and obviously the foundation that my dad built and all the work that the team's put on it has really gotten us to where we are today. So it's exciting to be here, and obviously being a partner with Integrity. I couldn't think of a better time to really see that happen. It's great to be a partner for sure.
Well, first of all, I don't know if you can give enough accolades to what your team has built and what you guys have done. It's been amazing. But the impact that you guys have already had on Integrity, and just for some background, the genesis of this call, this Integrity Inspire podcast, began with a call that you and I and Laura, your sister, had before this thing even blew up, we were talking about just some of our readiness plans and what we could do to help you guys start, being prepared. You guys were already thinking way ahead of where most people were, but Laura actually came up with the entire idea of these calls, and she said, I think it'd be great if we had kind of a designated time that we could all just get on the phone, or a designated time for everybody at Integrity just to reflect and have kind of a moment of silence or prayer, to just pray for our business, but also pray for the country and pray for everybody who's impacted. And that transpired. Frankly, with being on a conference call, it'd be a little bit difficult to have moments of silence on there. But that transpired. That idea, really, this whole concept was, let's designate a time to get on the phone and all talk about ways that we can continue to grow, and let's look for the positives as well as continue to pray and continue to do those things. So I want to give a shout out to Laura on this call, because we would not be on this call today if it wouldn't have been for that call that you and I and her had a while back, and then her following up saying, and really I kind of looked at it as a challenge to say, hey, how do we find an avenue for us all to come together in a way? And so appreciate y'all's leadership. When we partnered together, it was immediate for me. Walking into the meeting with your leadership, how quickly they embraced this whole idea, how quickly they embraced us, man. It was just kindred spirits right off the bat. So thank you guys.
Oh, absolutely, Bryan, for sure.
Well, Ryan, you've seen a lot of change over the course of your career, and you and I are exactly the same age, and there's been a lot of different things that we've seen. But one of the things I've always admired, definitely before we were partners, I always admired how you never let anything stop you. You're always innovating. You're always coming up with ideas to continue to grow and expand. What do you think are some of the keys to you growing through change and to your success there?
It's a great question. I think we all try to figure out at some point in our career, and as we evolve personally and from a professional perspective, I guess what motivates you, what keeps you competitive, and then ultimately what's your reason to do things as hard as you do them. It's funny, I have and if nothing else, I love sports analogies, but I have a good friend whose son actually I coach baseball for, and he's a guy who isn't a coach by nature, but ended up coming coach locally for our high school, Winfield High School, and this goes back several years, but girls soccer, and when he got there, the program was pretty much an average program. They'd be good to hit 500, and just kind of took complacency for what it was. The back end of that story is that he went on to win 7 state championships in soccer, and really changed the landscape of West Virginia girls soccer at the high school level. When you think about for us, we have a small school, but for all these big schools that have been winning it over the years, he took a group of girls out of the small town of Winfield and went on to win 7 championships. And one thing he said, which really, I guess, made me think hard about it, was he was interviewed after his 6th or 7th championship. And the question came up around, what is it about you and your program and the girls that give you the ability to win so often? And his response was interesting. He said, you have to hate losing more than you love winning. And man, that so statement true. Has a ton of it has a ton of meaning around it. And it's this concept that I think for me personally, when you're at a spot and winning is what you're about, then maybe you personally feel good for making the top 10 list or the top 5 list, or maybe even being in the top 3. But when your whole thing is that you hate to lose, then doing everything you can in whatever sport it is or competition it is, gives you that ability to be and see yourself winning the game or winning the race or even the competition when it comes to, our business and what we do. And so I think part of it is just trying to figure out, why you do what you do and what you love most about it. And I think that, as I reflect back on the 20 plus years I've been in the business, and you look at things that have happened in our business that have changed, it's this desire to not become complacent. And I think that ultimately kind of falls back on Marshall Hall's quote that he used was, you have to hate losing more than you love winning. And I think the concept was interesting because when he came to this school and he was asked to be the girls' soccer coach, he basically kind of laid out and said, well, if you want me to do this, this is the criteria that these girls are going to have to meet to even try out. And he laid out,
Wow.
6 or 7 different things. At the beginning, he talked about you had to run a mile in 8 minutes, and it's not that hard, but you had to run a mile in 8 minutes, and you had to do 5 or 6 other different both endurance-related tests as well as skill-based tests. And it was funny. The principal of the school said, "You'll never have enough girls to field a team." And he said, "Well, if that's the way it's going to be, that's the way it's going to be." And he's kind of a no-nonsense guy. But at the very beginning, for girls' high school soccer, he was rostered on 9 kids, and it was because the kids didn't realize at that time that these are the 6 things you got to do to even try out to be on the team. And he gave the girls the ability to get better and run more and run harder. And ultimately, he ended up having 12 or 13 kids that first year. But putting those sets of standards in for the girls he was coaching was really the standards that he kind of you run your life by. It's like it's either this way or it's no way. And what was curious, and I think it's for all of us as we compete, whether it's in our careers or obviously in our businesses, is that once you win your first state championship, then you have to adjust your goals and take that 8 minutes down to 7:45, down to 7.5, because the whole group has to continue to grow and evolve. And I think that really, I mean, he's a guy that's inspiring to me just to listen to him talk. And fortunately, we got a chance to coach a baseball team together. And when you're in a position that you have to be so focused that you just don't want to lose, then I think those are the things that end up kind of coming back around and giving you the ability to see opportunity when things change, and you see that you're just willing to outwork people. And I find that as part of our what we do at the office is that we may not be good at a lot of things, but we're really good at working hard, and I think that's given us the position to be in a spot where we continue to be successful in a world where the market changes. I mean, the industry changes, and but yeah, he's been a big motivating factor for me, and I think it kind of relates back to you're in the right spot because you've prepped your entire career for just this will not you hate losing, you just can't stand it, and I think that was a big piece of at least what he went.
Man, Ryan, I like that. That answer right there, your point proves, I think, how successful or why you're so successful. I remember whenever we closed our transaction with Agent Pipeline, you came up to me right away and you said, I didn't do any of this for any money. I didn't care about any of that stuff. I did this because I want to win, period. And we are going to win together. And I remember standing in that hotel lobby going, oh my God, like this, it's just a different level of intensity, which I loved because you're such a subtle guy. I think people underestimate you in some ways because you're super humble. But that message, when you told me that day, I was like, now that's a guy I want to get, I want to lock arms with and go to battle with, because that's what it takes. And the fact that you just talked about a high school soccer coach from West Virginia, I think it proves to everybody here is you can learn from anybody. Like there's not
sure.
there, you know, a lot of times you want to go into, you know, John Maxwell or Jack Welch or whatever, the motivational guys are, or what, you know, business leaders. But man, what you just showed and what you just pointed out to me is, man, you can learn from anybody, and you just have to be willing. You just have to be willing to do that. I just love that about you. So, what are some of the attributes that you think help people grow the most?
You have to be in a position where you feel like that you're the underdog. And I think obviously part of our spirit in our company, I mean, we're from West Virginia, and I think that before we partnered with you guys, it was like, well, they don't have anybody in West Virginia. That's shocking. But it is. I mean, we feel like, I mean, one of the biggest things, you know, that helped us grow as a company over time was that we were from West Virginia. I mean, we had to do business outside of the state to be in a position to diversify ourselves. And which meant that we really went all over the country when we started recruiting agents and training agents on Medicare Advantage and Medicare supplements. But for us and for me personally, it's always being in a position where you feel like you're the underdog, and at least from a motivating standpoint, that puts me in a position to say either better than the next competitor, or I just need to figure out how to do them more often. And then just, you know, I think Sean Mike put it is that, you know, you're going to wake up at 8:00 and start working every day. He said, I'm going to wake up at 5 and I'm going to beat you every week. And there's no other truer story out there. We talk to our staff and our folks as they're trying to move through and obviously be better at what they do. And at the end of the day, you just have to want to work a lot harder than somebody else does. And it's that internal to improve yourself, the internal will that you need to ultimately do things you've never done. And it's funny, you look at, I don't know if you've ever heard of Roger Bannister before, but Bannister was this guy back in the...
Hey, hold on. Before you say that,
Yeah.
I'm going to take a picture of my notes. What you were just saying, because you wouldn't believe me this if I said this afterwards. I'm going to send you this. I just wrote, when you were talking, I wrote down Roger Bannister, which was...
Oh, really?
Which is bizarre. But you're exactly right. Keep going, man. That's an incredible correlation there.
Oh, I mean, it is. I mean, so you have Bannister back in the mid-50s who was the first person to ever run the sub 4-minute mile. And if you think through that process, you think through this aspect that no human being up until that point had run under 4 minutes in a mile, or run a mile in 4 minutes. Oh, yeah, it does. And everybody, all his coaches, everybody said it can't be done. The human body was not made to run that fast for that long. You'll kill yourself. And I think that, you know, at the end of the day, he said, I can do it. And I think in the position is when the world's against you and you feel like you can do something, then you find the way to do it. You find the will, and then you knock down every barrier to get yourself there. And if you look at it today, what's interesting is that if you were in the 1950s, all of us, we were all there in the mid 50s, all of us would have said you can't run a sub 4-minute mile. And now today there are thousands of people who have run that sub 4-minute mile. And it's crazy to think that it's crazy to think that his will and his motivation ultimately said that I'm going to make this happen, and it's either come hell or high water, or it's I'm going to prove everybody wrong, or it's just people don't believe in me, and I'm going to figure out a way to get this done. And I think that, you know, as we've grown our business and our team's grown our business, we've always kind of realized that, you know, that everybody is out there trying to compete with us, and we always have to figure out a way to make things work. And fortunately, I think back to your original point, the staff that we have at Agent Pipeline is, man, they're impressive. I mean, they are, and I put them up against anybody, and it's because of their work and how much time and effort and energy they put into it has really gotten us to where we are today.
Roger Bannister, that if you haven't looked up his story, just Google it. But what was amazing, you brought up actually a pretty nice correlation to that, is Roger Bannister could not have done that. He couldn't have done that if he wouldn't have had a team. So he had people who were pacing him, right? And he would have guys who would sprint ahead of him. He was trying to keep up with. And that's how you push the body so far, and fast. And if you didn't have that, if you didn't have like a team around you, there's no way you could have done this. And like you said, even after he did it, people started to do that. In fact, his record did not stand long. Frankly, it continued to be lowered. As people continue to do this. But what happened is they said it couldn't be done. He proved it could, and then others were able to do that, which I think is also part of this Inspired podcast that we're talking about is learning from other people, learning from how they did things and go, man, if they could do it, then I could do it. I love that, man. How do you think some of that translates a little bit more deeply into some of our business, and what do you think holds people back from potential growth through change?
It's funny to go back to Marshall Hall for a second. One of the things that he's taught me over the years, and as we look at just sports, and you bring in Roger Bannister as a good example, is that you think about your body and your brain and how they work differently, and at some point your brain tells your body you got to stop running because you just can't make it. And when you think about any sport you've played, any exercise you've done, any workout that has been super hard, super grueling, you always pick up your brain starting to say, hey, man, you should slow down a little bit. Hey, you've gone too far. You should probably take a break, grab a drink. You're getting ready to something's getting ready bad to happen. And it's your brain telling your body. And probably your brain at times is right. But what happens with superior athletes, what happens with Bannister's a good example, is that at the end of the day, your body will do more than your brain tells it will do. And you have to push through that. If you want to become, we talk about this to our kids that are playing baseball and training and getting ready for the baseball season. Well, I'm sure Bannister's team was telling him the same thing as he started working, is that you have to push through that. And the same thing happens in the business world. You look at everything from, telling yourself at times that, man, I just closed my most recent deal. I can take a break, or I just got done with this. And I need to take about 10 minutes and go, relax, let my brain relax for a few minutes. And at least for me, as soon as I hear myself say those things, I know that I'm giving myself a way out to maybe not be as successful as I can be. And it's not like it just kind of creeps in over time. And I think when you look at either athletes or the business world, there are moments in your life where you have an opportunity to push through something you've never done before. And if you let your brain tell you shouldn't do it because you need to have time to do something else, or you need to slow down, or you need to take a breath, then you'll never push through that. And those times when it's hard and and you're ready to quit, those are the times when you learn the most about yourself. And those are the times that you give yourself the greatest chance for success. And I think that, again, whether it's Bannister or whether it's, our businesses and what we do individually, and maybe, in my world, it's like, I've been on the road for 6 weeks. I need to take a week off. Like, yeah, you can, and you can take that week off, or you can figure out how to make it work both professionally and personally, and make sure your life's right. And then also make sure you go see those people who really need you to come see them for whatever the reason is. And, those types of opportunities can be really impactful for people. But at the end of the day, Bryan, you've got to take away from something else to do that. But whatever you're taking away from doesn't hold the value that what you can spend your time on reaching out to people. So whether it's athletics and whether it's business or whether it's, just personal relationships, man, everybody has a powerful opportunity in life. And, the more you shy away from it, the less likely you'll be to ever achieve it.
That is regardless of what you're involved in. I've been trying to reach out to family and friends and other people that typically don't make time for. and if you're not like, listen, if you rest, like there's somebody coming at you, man. I was just researching this Rogers Bannister story because I love that story. Less than 6 weeks later, after his Bannister set that record, did what everybody said could not be done. 6 weeks later, a guy named John Landry beat his record. 6 weeks. Like guys, if we're not getting up and serving our customers and doing everything that we have to do to make ourselves better today, there's going to be somebody who does. That's for sure. Man, listen, Ryan, I've got a lot more to ask you. Like we barely got into this, what I'd had planned, and you've gone through a lot of change, and you guys at Agent Pipeline have just accelerated your growth through that change. Ironically, you sent me a text whenever we first started these, and you said, hey, we need to really keep these down to like 15 minutes. It'd be great if you kept them down to 15 minutes. So I told you, bro, that day. I said, it's pretty hard.
I remember.
It's pretty hard, isn't it?
I remember. Yeah.
So here we have a whole plan for this week, but I'm going to ask people to push that back if you don't mind, because I think you've got so many different things that we're talking about here, and some of the things I want to ask you. And you lead one of the biggest businesses in the Integrity family. Would you be willing to come back tomorrow and let's kind of wrap up this conversation? Because I want to honor people's time, but would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, man, I absolutely. I'm in. I'll be back tomorrow for sure.
Hey, this is the first for the Inspire podcast. We're going to have a 2-part segment.
Maybe last.
maybe less. We'll see if we can keep that one to 15 minutes. So,
yeah.
Hey, man, thank you very much for joining. Thanks for being willing to do it tomorrow as well, because I think some of the other points I want to talk about, we can dig deeper into that. Please be prepared to come back tomorrow to talk with Ryan. This is going to be a lot of fun. We've got a lot of exciting stuff we'll cover tomorrow. I had several different questions I wanted to ask Ryan that we'll get to tomorrow. So please join us tomorrow. Ryan, thank you very much. We'll talk tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Love you guys. We'll talk soon. Have a great day, guys. Take care.